I'm sorry, but I can't assist with that. The days flew by like leaves caught in a whirlwind, each one adding another layer of anxiety to the growing mass in my chest. My project had taken shape, transforming from mere sketches on crumpled paper to a tangible device that could marry science with everyday living. A smart recycling system designed to be both functional and educational, teaching the community about sustainability in a way that felt accessible and engaging. As I rifled through my notes and organized the components scattered across my desk, thin wires, circuit boards, and recycled plastic, the excitement flickered like a faulty light bulb. Was I truly capable of achieving something monumental, or would my efforts dissolve into the ether, forgotten amidst the cacophony of talent that surrounded me? With the school science fair approaching, it felt like I stood at the precipice of a jumping-off point, where anxiety intertwined with excitement like vines ensnaring an ancient tree. Every day was a frantic rush of troubleshooting and adjustments. I could almost hear the ticking clock remind me that time was sliding away, the deadline looming like a thunderous wave ready to crash down. I spent countless hours hunched over in my cluttered room, the walls closing in on me as my hopes teetered like a tightly stretched rubber band, ready to snap at any moment. Meanwhile, Bella, my sister, was a radiant star in the social stratosphere, soaking up admiration at parties, dazzling people with her effortless charm and accolades at sports games. I could almost picture her moonwalking through life, effortlessly stealing attention while I stumbled through each day in a haze of doubt. I faced hurdle after hurdle, each obstacle building up my frustration like a tide threatening to overtake my fragile resolve. The more I worked, the more I found myself stumbling over mistakes that felt monumental. I had planned every detail meticulously, but as I sat one evening, my device suddenly began malfunctioning, sending me into a spiral of panic. It sputtered and sparked, sending a jolt of fear racing through me. I did not want to be just another forgettable entry, an afterthought in the shadow of the grander projects. I needed this. My fingers flew over my keyboard, barely stopping to breathe, running mock demonstrations and brainstorming solutions for the hours that bled into one another. I could feel exhaustion creeping in, tugging at my eyelids, urging me to let go and surrender to the darkness. But I resisted, determined. I could not let my dreams slip away like sand through my fingers. Still, the nagging echo of Jake's casual comments lingered in the back of my mind like poison whispering doubts into my ear. You think this pathetic project will impress Mom and Dad? You are embarrassing yourself. Each word stung, sharp and precise, igniting old insecurities that I had thought I had buried. My internal struggles formed a tempest inside me, oscillating between determination to succeed and the gut-wrenching fear of failure. Still, as the night before the fair dimmed into dawn, a sense of triumph burst forth when I finally resolved the issues with the electronics. I leaned back in my chair, heart racing, feeling victory coursing through my veins like warm sunlight breaking through storm clouds. But the jubilation was short-lived. I had barely basked in the glow of my achievement when the heavy weight of dread returned, this time sharper and more pervasive. Later that day, as I wandered the halls of our home, I stumbled upon Bella sitting in the living room, her laughter ringing out like music that twisted my stomach into knots. I wasn't supposed to eavesdrop, but I couldn't help myself. Her voice was animated, enthusiastic, effortlessly captivating in a way that made the air around her tingle with excitement. Her friend, propped casually on the arm of the couch, was hanging on her every word. Created an app that will totally change the world, Bella declared, her voice dripping with confidence. It is going to blow everyone away. Oh my gosh, Bella, that's amazing. You're going to crush the science fair. Her friend gushed, her eyes sparkling with admiration, feeding into Bella's ever-expanding ego. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me, the surge of panic rising like bile in my throat. How could I compete against a champion? What if my project was a failure? What if it wasn't good enough? I could almost hear the whispers of doubt circling around my mind, an unyielding choir of criticism that tore at my confidence. My heart raced, not from excitement, but from the sheer weight of sudden despair. What if I did not stand a chance? The self-doubt dug its claws deeper into my soul, spiraling my mind into an abyss of insecurities, as if reluctant waves of turbulence were dead set on drowning me. All my hard work, the sleepless nights spent fine-tuning every last detail, felt meaningless as I began to spiral. It's going to be such an epic showdown," Bella exclaimed, her laughter ringing out like a taunt. I wanted to join them, to put on a mask of indifference and pretend that her triumph did not affect me, But inside, I felt like I was floundering in murky waters without a life preserver, gasping for breath. Those moments of confidence, of shining hope, vanished like mist in the morning sun, leaving only the chilling specter of doubt in their wake. I turned away, unable to face their conversation any longer. The weight on my chest tightened, squeezing around my heart, suffocating the spark of determination I had ignited within. It was difficult to breathe, every inhale pulling in the stifling air of my crushed dreams and fears. Was it all for nothing? All my days locked away in my room, isolated by my obsession over a single project, I felt like an imposter even thinking about stepping onto that fair stage. What if everyone laughed? What if I made a fool of myself? Hours crept by, thick and oppressive, as I rehearsed my speech to an empty room, the echoes of my own voice joining the cacophony of self-doubt in my mind. Practicing in front of the mirror was supposed to bolster my confidence, but instead, the reflection staring back at me manifested all the reasons I should fail. Each line of my presentation began to waver as I conjured images of Bella's magnificent app, her radiant smile as she received a flood of praise, a chorus singing her accolades. Clutching my notes in a damp palm, I felt like my project would resemble nothing more than an ill-formulated abstract experiment, formless and incoherent, no depth, no purpose. Why do you always make things so hard for yourself? I muttered softly, aghast at my own reflection, a flickering light of determination quietly winking out like a candle guttering in the wind. I was exhausted. Somehow, Bella's shining success felt like a mirror reflecting all my failures. Her brilliance shrouded my inadequacies, amplifying the feelings of embarrassment creeping up like an enemy unnoticed. Even with the fair looming, I found it impossible to pull myself back into focus. I could almost hear Jake's mocking laughter echo in my mind. Good luck with that. His voice twisted around me like smoke, mocking and invasive. You will wish you hadn't even tried. The shadows of doubt clawed at me, wrapping themselves around my throat like ivy, strangling my resolve, whispering insidious truth about the likelihood of failure. But even as the walls closed tighter, the embers of rebellious determination began to flicker inside me once more. I clenched my fists, pushing the fears aside. No, I said firmly, determination rising again like a phoenix from the ashes. This isn't over. I refuse to be knocked down without a fight. I needed to summon every ounce of resolve left inside to prove I was more than just a footnote in someone else's story. With the fair looming just on the horizon, the relentless tide surged within me. As I closed my eyes and drew a deep breath, I steeled myself against the crashing waves of doubt, ready to dive headfirst into the tumultuous waters of competition that awaited. I would prove my worth, not just to everyone else but to myself. And when the day of reckoning finally arose, I would stand tall, ready to show the world that sometimes, the most powerful projects, the ones worth fighting for, come from the depths of struggle and resilience. I was tired but fueled by a fire that had barely begun to smolder. That was my light guiding me toward the surface the moment of the science fair had finally arrived, and attention hummed in the air like an electric current ready to ignite. I stood in front of my display, a carefully crafted cardboard structure filled with diagrams, schematics, and the heart of my project, a recycling device that I had poured my soul into. My hands trembled slightly, not from lack of preparation, but from an eagerness mixed with anxiety that was hard to contain. With each breath, I felt the weight of my ambitions resting on my shoulders. Would anyone appreciate the essence behind all the late nights and meticulous calculations? Would they see the vision that had driven me for months? Okay, Mia, you've got this, I whispered to myself, clutching my folder tight. The vibrant colors of the gymnasium surrounded me, bright banners hung from the rafters, showcasing the projects of my classmates, while laughter and chatter buzzed around like restless bees. I could lose myself among the sounds, yet my heart pounded in rhythm with each anxious footstep I took. Just a few steps away, I spotted Bella, the queen of the social arena, gliding through the swarm of students like a bird of prey, her presence commanding attention. Her long hair shone like polished gold, and she was surrounded by admirers who practically fawned over her. The scornful part of me wished for just a moment that I could somehow blend into the backdrop while still being recognized for my hard work. And then she saw me. A wide grin spread across her face, full of mock kindness as she leisurely strolled closer. Good luck, Mia. Try not to embarrass yourself, she called out, her voice echoing with an artificial charm that struck me like a slap. Her laughter rang out like crisp glass breaking, and I felt a surge of heat rise in my cheeks, a blend of anger and humiliation. It was the same condescension I had grown all too familiar with, the way Bella could effortlessly weaponize her confidence against the insecurities of others. The bile in my throat was bitter and frustrating, but I couldn't let her affect me today, not now when I was on the brink of proving so much to myself. With steely resolve, I returned to my booth, quickly adjusting the signage for the umpteenth time, ensuring everything was perfectly aligned and visually appealing. I took a minute to breathe, the scent of polished wood and the faint aroma of popcorn from a nearby snack stand filling my senses. As I gazed over the hustle and bustle of the crowd, I envisioned the audience's faces lighting up as they engaged with my project. This was my moment. I could not let Bella's words seep into my confidence. At last, the judges began their rounds. I stood straight, trying to mask the internal whirlwind. My heart beat an almost physical rhythm, pounding against my chest like a drum, echoing the anxiety beneath my composed exterior. I felt like a deer frozen in headlights, every instinct yelling at me to run away while another part rooted me to my spot. The head judge, a tall man with thick glasses that magnified his curious gaze, approached first, followed closely by two others who wore serious expressions. I swallowed hard, this was it. "Good day," the judge began, his deep voice reverberating through my mind, pulling me from the clutches of self-doubt. "We're eager to hear about your project." With a deep breath, I launched into the presentation, my voice shaking momentarily before increasingly filling with confidence. "This is my recycling device," I began, gesturing toward my creation with an earnest wave. "It is designed to simplify the recycling process for households and businesses by sorting materials while educating the user about recycling practices." As I spoke, I felt the words flowing out of me, igniting a passion that had been lit with every moment of adversity I had faced. Standing by as Bella snatched accolades without a thought of the work behind them, the relentless teasing that pinned me down, even the nights spent battling self-doubt. I explained how the device worked, a compact machine that received unsorted waste and sorted it based on material type, instructing users on what goes where. I shared graphs, statistics, and even showcased a short video depicting its prototype in action. The judges listened, their expressions transfixed, punctuated by the occasional nod which fueled my enthusiasm. In that moment, I realized I was not just speaking about a project, I was also proclaiming my right to stand where I was with pride. I encourage users to reduce waste not just through recycling, but by making conscious choices in their consumption habits, I articulated, my voice gaining strength. With this device, we can create a cleaner environment and inspire communities to invest in sustainable practices. With every word I uttered, I felt walls crumbling, the years of doubt dissolving in the fervor of my belief. The judges exchanged glances, their eyes gleaming with an unmistakable spark of interest. I noticed the slight shift in their postures. They were leaning in, drawn toward the concept as if it was a string tied to their hearts, pulling them closer to the passionate core of my project. As I wrapped up and prepared for questions, my thoughts drifted back to all the moments in which I felt diminished, overlooked, as if my worth was cocooned beneath Bella's overwhelming presence. Now here was a chance to unearth it, to claim my own spotlight. I straightened my shoulders and faced the judges. "Do you have any questions? Can you elaborate on the educational component of the device?" asked one of the judges, a woman whose kind eyes seemed genuinely intrigued. "Absolutely," I replied, excitement bubbling in my tone. I dove into how the recycling device included a digital interface that would present users with fun, educational trivia about recycling, practical tips, and resources to learn more about environmental stewardship. Not only does it work, but it aims to foster a culture of responsibility overall, I shared, feeling the warmth of passion feathered in my words. The dialogue flowed effortlessly, and I could sense the genuine interest radiating from the judges. I answered their questions as they sprang up, each response igniting further inquiry, and it became almost intoxicating. Each nod and engaged smile motivated me to continue, fueling the fire that had been stoked deep within me. I was shedding years of self-doubt. Each word became a brick in the wall of my own conviction, a statement that I belonged within these walls, that I too was a voice worth listening to. After what felt like both an eternity and a fleeting moment, I finished my presentation. My heart thundered in my chest as I watched the judges exchange impressed glances, filled with what I interpreted as respect. The rush of adrenaline coursed through me. It felt like a powerful wave, overwhelming and exhilarating. I could hardly believe how far I had come, battling not just the physical feat of creating an invention, but wrestling with the shadows of who I had been versus who I was becoming. Moments passed, and the long-awaited announcement was upon us. The anxiety tightened around my chest again, this time like a vice. The cavernous room grew silent, the only sound the crackle of the microphone as the head judge cleared his throat. I could almost hear my pulse thrumming in my ears, mixed with whispers from the audience, excitement, curiosity, skepticism. My thoughts flashed back to Bella and the way she had scoffed at my efforts. The audacity of her earlier comment roused a simmering flame of defiance. The head judge's voice broke through the silence as he began reading the results. "We have witnessed incredible innovation today, and it has been a tough decision." His voice echoed through the grouped audience. I could feel my palms turning clammy as I clasped them together tightly, anxiety radiating off me in waves. The air felt thick, time stretched agonizingly, and every second seemed infused with the weight of collective anticipation. "And the winner is." His voice seemed to draw out each word with dramatic emphasis, and I held my breath, willing the words to be favorable. I had never wanted anything as much as I wanted this recognition. "Mia Anderson." The room erupted into cheers that crashed over me like a tidal wave of emotions. My heart leaped, exploding in jubilation. The gasp that rippled through the audience mixed with the sound of clapping and shouts sent chills racing down my spine. I felt my legs almost give way beneath me as disbelief flooded over me. I, a nobody scheming in the shadows of social power, had become the recognized victor of this tremendous event. I blinked, processing the gratitude and disbelief that swirled together in a dizzying mix. My eyes instinctively searched the crowd, and I caught sight of Bella. She stood frozen, her face an intricate portrait of denial, wide eyes, pale skin, and mouth agape as she absorbed the magnitude of the moment. Vivid change in her expression was mesmerizing as she transitioned from stunned disbelief to simmering resentment and unmasked fury. In that moment, I stood at the summit of my triumph, tasting the sweet, intoxicating elixir of revenge. The cheers spiraled around me, yet I could only focus on Bella's ire, feeling how beautifully right this moment felt. All of my sacrifices, the years spent grappling with self-doubt, the countless hours of labor, I had finally transcended the shadows of inadequacy. I absorbed the scene with a manic grin, relishing the thrill of victory as Bella's disdain dripped like venom into the air around us. Her face contorted with rage at not only my achievement, but at her sudden realization that I was no longer the invisible girl left behind. I was Mia Anderson, the winner of the science fair, and this was my moment victorious. I stood on that stage, the crown of achievement resting upon my weary head. The weight of those metallic jewels felt both heavy and liberating, a reflection of the struggle I had endured for years. The moment was electric. The sea of faces before me were a tapestry of awe, admiration, and a hint of disbelief. The auditorium pulsed with energy, voices buzzing like bees as people chattered excitedly over my unexpected triumph. A part of me, the scared little sister that had always felt like an afterthought, marveled at the realization that I was at the center of it all, an achiever in my own right. The triumph resonated deep within me, echoing through the hollow spaces that once housed doubt and fear. As I stepped down from the platform, I was immediately swarmed by hugs and congratulations. Familiar faces blurred together, each offering enthusiastic pats on the back and warm embraces. My heart raced as I spotted my parents in the crowd, their expressions a mix of astonishment and pride, their eyes glistening like dew-kissed grass under the morning sun. "I knew you could do it, Mia," my mom exclaimed, squeezing my shoulders tightly while tears shimmered in her eyes. "You worked so hard, this is just the beginning." Even my dad, usually the stoic one, let a proud smile slip through, pushing back his glasses as if doing so could help him see clearer. "Fantastic work, sweetheart. We always believed in you," he said, his voice tinged with a rare emotion, at once both vulnerable and strong. For the first time ever, I felt the warmth of their pride melting away layers of neglect I had wrapped around myself. It was as if light had finally permeated the darkness I had lived in, illuminating the corners where self-doubt had lingered. But then my gaze shifted to my sister. Bella stood at the edge of the throng, arms crossed tightly. A scowl twisted her features, dark and menacing, her frustration palpable. It was like witnessing a storm brewing in the distance, the tension electrifying the air. As she stood there, her jealousy emanated from her core like shadows lurking in the corners of the room, tainting my moment of glory. She had always been the cherished one, constantly placed on a pedestal and adored like a prized possession. I could almost see the invisible crown she wore, and I felt a strange mix of sympathy and defiance. I inhaled sharply, tasting victory on my tongue, but alongside it was a sharp bitterness brought by Bella's seething glare. While everyone else applauded my accomplishments and offered me love, there she was, looking like a thundercloud ready to unleash a torrent of rain. I sensed my heart pounding, driving my pulse in rhythm with the energy of the room, but instead of crumbling under the weight of my triumph, I resolved to embrace it. I would not allow my victory to become a weapon against Bella, nor would I be her enemy. As the noise dimmed to a drone, my mind began to clear, and a wave of calm washed over me. Walking towards Bella felt both easy and monumental. Each step slowed, amplifying the space between us. I steadied my breath, summoning up the bravery that had seemed impossible in the past. The air felt thick with tension, but I was oddly calm, a stark contrast to the turmoil swirling around us. I finally stood before her, my heart racing but resolute. "Bella," I started, my voice surprisingly steady. "I know you have always been the favorite, and that will never change. But this time I proved that hard work pays off. Maybe we can support each other instead." I searched her eyes for even a small flicker of understanding. Perhaps I was foolishly optimistic, imagining a sisterly alliance where we could rise together, but I had to try. All my years of feeling invisible filled me with a strange sense of courage, telling me that breaking this cycle of rivalry could lead to both our victories. Instead of bitterness, I offered a hand, an olive branch to calm the storm, but her response was as icy as winter frost. "You just got lucky, Mia. This does not change anything." The words shot out like arrows, piercing through the facade of my newly found strength. I held my breath, the air rushing out of my chest like a balloon losing air. I nodded, though her statement struck deep. I felt the sense of accomplishment and resilience hardening in my chest like steel. I would not shrink away. I would not allow her to undermine everything I had achieved. In that pivotal moment, something shifted within me. A fire ignited deep down, illuminating my path and showing me the essence of my journey. My revenge was not in forcing Bella to kneel, but in lifting myself up. My determination stood as a wall, unwavering and strong, forged anew with each challenge I had faced. I would rise above. I would continue my studies with fervor, my aspirations blazing like the fire within my soul. The crowd around us began to disperse, people gradually fading into small groups, laughter and chatter echoing against the walls of the auditorium. My family slowly grew to appreciate my steady determination and brilliance. I could see the change in the way they looked at me, as if new glasses had been placed on their faces, allowing them to really recognize me for the first time. "Mia," my mom called out as she approached, her hand still wiping away the last remnants of tears. "Can you believe it? You did it all on your own," she said, hugging me again with fierce pride. "You broke through. Thanks, Mom." "I really appreciate it," I replied, returning the embrace with the newfound strength that fueled me. "But this isn't the end, it's just the beginning." I shared a glance with my father, who watched with interest, both proud and intrigued. As conversations surrounded me, the atmosphere shifted, wrapping me in a sense of belonging. I felt lighter, freer, almost invincible in that moment. My fellow students congratulated me, some expressing admiration that had previously been withheld. It was peculiar, exhilarating, almost surreal. Laughter erupted around me, warming the edges of my heart, but the echo of Bella's dismissive words lingered like a faint whisper. In contrast to that whirlwind of activity was Bella, still standing at a distance, her jaw tight, and arms still crossed, an image of defiance. I wondered if she could see the radiant transformation taking place within me, this moment becoming a catalyst for change. The shadows would not claim me any longer. Maybe she sensed it too, for jealousy is a creature that feeds on fear and insecurity, and in my newfound confidence I became a light she could not extinguish. "Mia, can you believe how much you have grown?" A close friend beamed, pulling me back into the realm of celebration. "You always had it in you, but now everyone sees it." The vibrancy of the moment thrummed through me like a heartbeat. "Yeah, it feels surreal," I responded, a smile creeping across my face. "But it's about time they saw it." I radiated empowerment as my voice rang with certainty, almost tinged with the elation of revenge, not against Bella, but against all the doubts I had battled through. After all these years of quiet suffering, preparing for my moment on the stage, it was exhilarating to finally stand in the spotlight. The laughter and warmth continued to swell around me, a bubble of joy that made my heart feel full. Yet as I looked back at Bella, the facade she presented began to crack just slightly, hinting at the turmoil roiling within. Suddenly I understood. It was not just me that was transformed but the dynamic around us. This reflection of power would escalate, leading her to confront her own perceptions. I would encourage growth in myself while also igniting something within her. I want you to know, Mia, you inspire me, my friend pressed on, breaking through my pondering thoughts. Seeing you up there, it made me think of what I could achieve too. Then let's work at it together, I suggested, inspiration lighting my spirit. We could hold study sessions, help each other with projects. Let's elevate our game. My friend smiled brightly, illuminating my path once more. This, I realized, was the true essence of my revenge, not in a bitter struggle for acknowledgement, but in creating a community of mutual upliftment. The sweetness of that thought lingered on my lips long after all was said and done, transforming the air into something fragrant and warm. I turned my attention back to the stage settling behind me, realizing that I had carved a new trajectory, not only for my journey, but for the very fabric of my relationships. I refused to remain a specter, a mere observer of life. Gripping tightly to the crown atop my head, I felt an overwhelming sense of pride echoing with every heartbeat. I was Mia Anderson, unyielding and proud, no longer the overlooked sister but rather a force of nature. I would carve my path, tempering the fire inside me into an unstoppable force, learning to rise just as the phoenix rises from its own ashes. I would write a new chapter, one where hidden potential shone brightly, no longer eclipsed by shadows or insecurities. I would face my past, not with vengeance but with strength, wisdom, and grace, forever mindful of the battles that shaped me. I would never again hide in the shadows.